So I just got out of watching the movie Companion, which is something I didn't even know existed before this week. I had wanted to go see a movie, so I was looking through the list and I saw a Companion. It had like a sci-fi looking poster. And you know me, I love sci-fi, so I looked it up and it had good reviews. And I just said, you know what? I don't entirely know what it's about. Something to do with like a robot GF. And it sounds like the kind of autism I'd be interested in, so I went to go see it. On the whole, I'd say it was pretty good. It's like a solid, I'd say, 7 out of 10. I enjoyed the movie. It wasn't anything great or amazing, but I liked it well enough. I don't know if I'd recommend it. If you like sci-fi or suspense or stuff about robots or kind of cyberpunk light, then you probably enjoy the film. But let's go into it because I actually have a bit more to say about it than I thought. So, Companion takes place in the near future, where Wide's people, robot significant others, we'll use that term. Robot significant others have become very commonplace. Even middle class people can afford to rent them. And there's all kinds of settings you can get on them, like how they look, their voices. Something I find interesting is there's an intelligence setting where you can set it anywhere from like mouth, like drooling retard to Ivy League graduate, which I think is kind of an interesting one. But there's a bunch of settings. However, they try to keep it semi-realistic, so they don't have like too much goofy like super strength or stuff like that. Laws require them to limit it to a normal person strength, as well as a normal range of human intelligence, like very intelligent to very dumb, but not like superhuman levels. So the movie starts off with Josh, who is the archetypical gamma male. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, so gamma male is a concept. I forget who made it. It might have been Vox Day. I can't remember, but it's a position in the sociosexual hierarchy for a male who is above average intelligence, but is an underachiever relative to their capabilities. It is characterized by a strong sense, an inferiority complex, and a belief that the world owes them something, and that the fact that they have not achieved what they feel that they're owed makes them extremely bitter and resentful. And they're defined by kind of their sense of entitlement to something that they haven't earned. And they tend to blame the outside world. If this all sounds familiar, it's because it's very familiar with a lot of different characters, but he is like the archetypical gamma male. So he goes to the lake house of Sergei, who's this shady Russian guy. He's there along with Kat and his two gay friends and Sergei, and they're just there to hang out for some reason. Now, he goes there with Iris, who's played by the girl who plays Natalie in the flashback scenes in Yellow Jackets. So they go to the lake house, and they, for whatever reason, Kat really seems to hate Iris. She thinks that she's terrible. Kat's like some Indian girl who just complains about how Sergei just uses her as his like fuck doll, basically, and that he just uses her to do whatever. And it seems like Sergei is a Russian mobster or a Russian oligarch. Apparently later on they say he wasn't, but he pretty clearly was. They say he made his money in the sod business. So maybe they mean like the Assad business. And he was involved with like currency fraud or drug smuggling in Syria. But anyway, so they go there. we're treated to a really awkward party scene. Now, how it's kind of sold to us is that Iris is like, I don't know if you'd say a conservative girl or like a girl from a small town or something, or someone who's kind of wholesome, and like the degeneracy she's exposed to makes her feel a little uncomfortable. However, and so they go through this party. The two gay guys talk about like their past and stuff like that, and we're treated to one of the worst sex scenes of all time, wherein Joss just has sex with Iris. It lasts 2 seconds, and he doesn't care at all about trying to please her, and he just rolls over and tells her to go to sleep. Which is, I always find stuff like that disturbing. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Like, you have some scenes like that in House of the Dragon or in some other stuff. I don't know. And this kind of brings me to, I've been reading a bit some of the work and some lectures about, and we're getting all over the place, but that's what these are about. French Catholic existentialist philosopher Gabriel Marcel. And I'm probably not explaining this very well, but one of his core concepts was the idea of emotional availability. That is the ability to put yourself out there to actually connect with somebody on a human level, to express genuine concern or genuine feelings or genuine emotions towards them. So how I would interpret that, and once again, it's very, I'm trying to just kind of work through it, is if you ask somebody how they're doing and you really mean it, or you express condolences, or you try to comfort somebody, and it stems from a genuine care from the other person as a human being, then that has value to it. It's not just an empty gesture. It's kind of the ability to see and interact with someone as another person. So when that's not the case, particularly in a relationship, I always find it kind of disturbing. However, we figure out pretty quickly that Iris is a robot. She is the robot GF of Josh. And this whole thing was one massive setup. So she gets sent down to the lake. No one else is there except for Sergey. So they told Sergey that she's a sex bot and that he's welcome to use her for his purposes. So they did that, and then they also used a mod chip on her to make her super aggressive and remove the limiters that prevent her from killing people. So Sergey tries to have sex with her, and they tell him, oh, well, she's programmed to kind of resist you, to have like a rape fantasy or something. So he tries to basically rape her, and then she freaks out and stabs him. And it turns out this whole thing was a gay op to kill Sergey because he has all this money lying around. And because he's a Russian, Stalin's birthday is the code for everything. So, I don't know. Maybe he's involved with Donbass or something like that. He's involved with the... or maybe he's involved with the Nazgul party. He's like the money man for Alexander Dugin. But anyways, so they kill him. The whole thing is one big gay op. They screw it up, though, and they are able to let Iris escape. Iris is not aware that she's a robot. None of them are, at least theoretically. So she manages to get away and steal Josh's phone. So by having his phone, she's able to turn off verbal commands. So he can't tell her to shut down anymore. He's also able to... she's also able to turn her intelligence up so she can hopefully get out of the situation and just kind of muck around with some of her settings. So she's running through the woods. The gay guy and his lover go out. It turns out, of course, that the gay guy's lover is actually a robot as well, and he talks about how much he loves him. It's true love and all that stuff. So one thing leads to another. Iris winds up killing the gay guy, and this causes the gay robot to go berserk. She manages to get back to the cabin, and she's able to change her voice in order to open her boyfriend's self-driving car, and get it to take her out. However, her boyfriend uses Sergei's phone and is able to lock down the car and trigger the theft warning. However, as she's on the highway, a sheriff's deputy comes up and is about to arrest her. However, to try to cover up the loose ends, Josh has reprogrammed the gay robot to be in love with him, and turned up his aggression settings and used the same mod chip, and then got him to go and get Iris and the phone back. So that guy swerves out and kills the police officer. He brings them both back. They come up with another gay op, where what they're going to do is they're going to call the company that makes the robots. They're going to blame everything on Iris, and they're going to try to figure out some way of getting out of this. However, what winds up happening is Kat's going to leave Josh holding the bag on this one. And as she's about to leave, he asks the gay robot to stop her, and because he still has aggression turned on maximum, he stops her by stabbing her, and she dies. So, as part of the gay op, they get the robot company to come and get the robot, and they're going to reprogram it, or something. They're going to look at the black box, the solid state drive. He gets the robot to shoot herself. He gets Iris to shoot herself in the head. It turns out none of the important electronics were actually in the head. So he has to get the gay robot to kill the guys who came to pick her up. And just a whole bunch of other stuff happens. And eventually she's able to get one of the guys who survives from the company to remove all of her programming. And she's able to be a completely autonomous being and kill Josh, who gives a rant. Throughout the movie, he just gives these rants about how the world owes him something, and how hard it is out there, and how rough his life is, and how no one cares about him. And he keeps gloating and reactivating Iris when he doesn't need to, because he needs her emotional support for him. And I just, okay, so this comes back to the whole Gabriel Marcel thing and why I even brought that up. To me, it just really does summarize how I find people interact with each other now these days. It is a very transactional relationship I find people have. When people talk about each other, they say, oh, they're a contact, they're someone I've networked with, they're X or they're Y, or they're someone I can get this thing from, or something like that. I feel generally speaking, at least compared to when I was growing up even, people don't see each other as human beings. They see each other as, economic units, or things that they can use for their own purposes, or something like that. And I don't think there's less of a focus on genuine relationships between people, of actual emotional availability, of actually putting yourself out there and caring about something or somebody, and receiving that in return. Um, and instead, it's all just kind of fake. And I think it's very much the case. And the thing that I think kind of bothered me, and I get that they're robots, but just the, like, they wanted to have a fake relationship, but they didn't actually want a relationship. They didn't want emotional availability. They didn't want something that would actually care for them, or they could actually engage with, or that would actually be a companion to them. They basically just wanted a fuck toy that they could get to just jerk them off, both sexually and in terms of their ego. And there's not really any like desire to try to, and I get that it's a robot, but it acts like a person for the sake of this movie. There's not really an attempt for the person to return any of the affection. Like I said, when he has sex with her, he doesn't attempt to make it pleasant for her at all. He just treats her like a vibrator. And I get that she basically kind of is. But even beyond that, just the way the characters interact with each other, it's just very transactional. It's very, none of them care about each other on any deeper level. None of them are interested in each other. Their entire friendships is just an economical thing, or so that they can tick boxes off. Like, oh, I have gay friends. I have an Indian friend. I know these cool people. These cool people know other cool people. There's just no real basic concern or acknowledgement of each other. There's no emotional availability. And that's why I talk about that. And I mean, the internet has led to a lot of these relationships, but I just find that's in general the way that people often treat each other. And I think technology's made that worse. I also think, and getting into maybe kind of a political aspect of this, something I notice with a lot of people, and this is especially common, I think, the more liberal or social justice-y you are, is you don't view people as a person. You view them as a unit of something, like a unit of virtue, a unit of oppression, of something like that. That you don't, like, if you're going on about how, oh, this black person's oppressed, they're hard done by, they don't care about the individual as a person. They care about them as a racial unit, and something that they can use to display their personal virtues to. That's the virtue signaling, and it's kind of a relationship in that thing. Like, looking at this movie and looking at a lot of stuff, all these people would probably call themselves liberals and talk about how tolerant they are and how bad haters are and stuff like that, but they're largely incapable of having any kind of real emotional connection with anybody. They're incapable of really seeing any of these people like real human beings. And if you start to really kind of get into it, a lot of these people who are the most insistent that they're tolerant, that they want to stop hate speech or something like that, they have no emotional availability for any of the people they tend to care about. You know, I think maybe just to wind this up, I was talking to a guy from the South once, and he said, in the South, we love black people, but hate them as individuals, but hate them as a race. And in the North, they love blacks as a race and hate them as individuals. The idea being that even if they were more, I don't know, racist or whatever you want to say to black people in the South, they view them as actual human beings who they have individual relationships with. They're not necessarily just this amorphous mass that you don't really know anybody, or if you do know somebody from, it's like some white presenting gay liberal black Buddhist convert or something like that. And like I think an example of that is There's a famous clip of Louis Theroux, the obnoxious British journalist, who goes to South Africa and he's interviewing a Boer, and the Boer goes, "Look, I'm a racist. This black guy over here is a racist. He doesn't like my race. I don't like his. I don't want my kids to marry his kids. He doesn't want his kids to marry mine. But on a personal level, we get along and we're friends, and that's okay." And then Louis Theroux is trying to shame him and status signal and stuff like that, and the guy's like, "Look, you're treating them as a race, as a pet, as something like that. Yeah, I don't like blacks in general, but they at least understand that I view them as people." I think it's also, there's a scene in Gran Torino that's also like this, wherein Clint Eastwood's character, there's some black gangster guy, and the white kid he's with just basically pretend, tries to be a wigger and tries to say, "Yo man, the struggle is real, I know Black Lives Matter, whatever, but Black Lives Matter, racism's bad," stuff like that. And the black person just looks at him like he's scum, he despises the attempts to pander to him. Whereas Clint Eastwood takes out a gun and threatens him. He's like, "Yo buddy, you're gonna leave us alone, you're gonna get the fuck out of here, I'm gonna shoot you." And the black guy actually likes him, because the guy at least takes him seriously. He actually views him as a threat, and he views him as an individual person and not just this amorphous mess of virtue that he can grab onto. So I don't know, I know we're all over the place, but that's kind of the point of these. So I think it was an okay movie. Not the best, not the worst. If you want to see a sci-fi film that kind of touches on some of these social issues I talked about, then yeah, go see it. So I hope you enjoyed the review. God bless everybody and have a great evening.